Okay, so today we're starting on workbook page 132. Number 1 says order the fractions from least to greatest. So the easiest way to order fractions is to convert them all to decimals. So the way that we convert a fraction to a decimal is you do the top number divided by the bottom number. So 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. 9 divided by 10 is 0.9. And 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. So now that we have our decimals, this decimal, 0.75, has two numbers after the decimal place. So to make it easy to order them, you want to make all the decimals two numbers after the decimal place. So for the rest of the decimals, the next number in each of them would be a 0. So I'm going to add a 0 to each of them. So now all my decimals have two numbers after the decimal place, and now it's easy to order from least to greatest. So the smallest decimal is 0.50, which is 1/2. So 1/2 is the least fraction. The next one would be 0.75, which is 3/4. The next lowest is 0.80, which is 4/5. And then the greatest is 0.90, which is 9/10. So when we write our final answer, you have to make sure to use the original forms of the numbers that was given in the problem. So we can't leave our answers as decimals because they were given as fractions in the original problem. We can just use the decimals to help us solve the problem. Number 2, Cora spends 2/3 of her free time blogging on the internet. Leah spends 60% of her free time blogging on the internet. Who spends more of her free time blogging? So Cora spends 2/3 of her time. Leah spends 60%. So again, we're going to make them both into decimals. So 60%, a percent to a decimal, you just move the decimal place 2 to the left. So this would be 0.60. 2/3, you would do 2 divided by 3. 2 divided by 3 is 0.66666, and it goes on forever. So what we want to do is, because it's 0.6 that goes on forever, we just want to round it to however many times the other decimal goes up to, so they're easy to compare. So this has two numbers after the decimal, so we want to make this two numbers after the decimal. So if I were to round this to the hundreds place, I would get 0.67 because this is the hundreds place. The number after it is 5 or bigger, so the hundreds place has to round up 1. So Leah is 0.60, Cora is 0.67. So who spends more of their time? The answer is Cora. Number 3, the table shows the wins for some middle school football teams. Which team has the greatest fraction of wins? Although it says greatest fraction of wins, we can still convert them all to decimals because whichever is the greatest decimal is also going to be the greatest fraction. So the Eagles have 95%. So again, move the decimal 2 to the left, and that's 0.95. The Wolves have 9/10. So if you do 9 divided by 10, that's 0.9. And then 0.89 is already a decimal, so we don't have to change anything. Now 0.95 is two numbers behind the decimal, and so is 0.89. So I'm going to add a 0 here, so they're all two numbers behind the decimal, which makes it really easy to see that 0.95 is the largest decimal. So that means the Eagles would have the greatest fraction of wins because 0.95 is bigger than 0.90 and 0.80.